Hello, welcome to another episode of LinkedIn for Lawyers, true stories of client acquisition told by attorneys. My name is Vikram Rajan. I will be your host. I'm also the co-founder of Video Socials, which is a video blogging community for those kinds of professionals, attorneys, accountants, coaches, consultants. We come together in our video blogging clubs to record, of course, short video blogs, as well as podcast promo videos together, fun and done. And then we also use our automation software to get the videos captioned and posted all automatically through Brander, our software. Today's podcast is not a how-to use LinkedIn, but rather it's kind of from the experience of someone who has already gotten some amount of success with LinkedIn and how she's done it. My guest today is Katherine Taylor, and I've known Katherine for a little bit now, so it'll be a fun conversation. So Katherine, before we even go into like what you do with LinkedIn and what you've gotten from LinkedIn, tell us a little bit more about your practice, where you practice, who you work with.
I'm a business law attorney. My office is located in Columbia, Maryland, which is basically halfway between Baltimore, Maryland, and Washington, D.C. So it's a kind of a suburban enclave between two large metropolitan areas.
Yeah.
In my practice, I primarily represent business owners of mostly small businesses. And most of the work that I do relates to their ownership interest in their business, whether it's drafting owner agreements, dealing with owner disputes, buying and selling ownership interests, that sort of thing.
Yeah. And do you work pretty exclusively in that locale of Maryland, right? You have clients pretty much locally?
Well, most of my clients, I would say, are somewhat local. Well, local meaning in the Baltimore, Washington metropolitan area. But, I'm licensed in Maryland, and I definitely have clients outside of this particular area, geographic area.
Yeah. And then how did you get brought into the world of LinkedIn? When did you, do you remember when you got started, when maybe someone invited you in?
LinkedIn, I've been a member of LinkedIn for a long time.
Yeah.
I'm thinking that I might have been one of the early invitation only members.
Sure.
Back when there was an invitation.
Back when people didn't really realize why they should even be on LinkedIn.
Exactly.
Bother with this thing.
Right. Yeah. And so over time, I have, number one, increased my connections and updated my profile. And, I've attempted to keep all of the profile information current. And so, gosh, it's probably been since LinkedIn was in its infancy.
Right. Sure. So, I mean, that could be easily 15 years or so.
Yeah.
Literally. And what prompted you to even be active or even start with LinkedIn way back then when that wasn't the norm?
Well, about 15 years ago, I started my own law practice. And so, and of course, 15 years ago, we didn't use social media the way we do now. And so really at that time, the only real kind of outlet for, business owners to connect was LinkedIn.
Yeah.
As time has gone on, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok even, has become more commonplace for business owners, and especially even professional business owners. But at the time, it was really only LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And, and as a lawyer, it's a very traditional type of practice. You didn't really want to be too kind of out there by using social media too much. So LinkedIn was really a perfect solution at the time.
So the two worlds started coinciding, right? You started your own law practice, and even to back up to that, what prompted you to even start your own law practice? What was going on?
So I'd been working for the local government as a a county attorney, and I was ready to do something different. But also at the time, I had 2 young daughters who were in school, and really wanted a way to be able to kind of manage my own schedule, so to speak.
Sure.
And so that, in addition to the fact that I'd been with the county for 10 years. Prior to that, I was with a large law firm, and I knew I didn't want to go back into that world. And so this was something that I had been wanting to do for a long time. And it was a good time for me to do it.
That's neat. And so it coincided with LinkedIn starting to get some
Exactly.
traction, and it made sense for you to start getting
Right.
onto LinkedIn. Do you remember in the early days what you were doing with LinkedIn, and how has that changed and progressed over these years? Like, what do you do?
So at the beginning for me, it was making sure I connected with people, and I tried to do it. I didn't just kind of go out there and try to connect with just anybody. I would look at people's profiles and try to determine who might be, number one, interesting to follow, or just have a connection with. And over the years, it's the universe of people that I've decided I'm going to attempt to connect with has really gotten smaller as I've niched my own practice. And but in addition to connecting, it was a lot of it was using LinkedIn in some respects as that online resume database to look somebody up. If they're a client or potential client, if I'm dealing with another attorney and I want to know what their background is, what their experience is, then it's been a fabulous tool for that. And I still use it today for that purpose.
So to kind of even back up to that earlier point, in the beginning, yes, you were connecting with a whole wide swath of people, and then you've become more judicious with who you want to connect with, as, again, you've niched your practice, and you kind of know who you kind of want in that circle of influence. And you've kept it as kind of your CV, your profile to help people get to know you. Were you posting anything back then when you got started with LinkedIn, and how has that progressed?
Posting back then, very little. We've been much better at posting, and now post regularly. And it's really helped a lot. We try to post a variety of things. I personally don't like the posts that are little mini infomercials. I don't like to see that on LinkedIn. And so what we try to do is post either, just general information that we think is going to be helpful to those people who are in my, circle of connections. Anybody who is, running a small business, for instance, that sort of thing.
And so, can you give us an example? Like, how often are you posting on a week-to-week basis, and what are some of the things that you posted even this past week?
We post several days a week.
And
the types of things. So one thing we post on LinkedIn are the videos that I record on Video Socials. We post articles that would hopefully be helpful. News reports about business related, small business related issues. Back during kind of the beginning part of the COVID-19 lockdowns, everybody was working remotely. I was doing a lot of research into the PPP loans and what was necessary for a business to have available in order to apply for a PPP loan. So I was posting that kind of information also.
Cool, neat. So informational written articles that other people have authored that you're sharing, obviously your own videos, and with all these kinds of posting that you're doing, let's say multiple days a week. What has that response been? What have you seen your own circle of influence? How have they engaged with you?
So I don't know that I've seen that much response directly on LinkedIn. There are people who will like things that I posted or comment, but Many times when I talk to somebody on the phone or, meet somebody and, well, haven't done that a whole lot of this lately,
Right,
a
but not
networking
really
kind
in
of
person, but
situation,
yeah. Yeah,
or, you know, I've had many, many people say, "Oh, I see what you're posting on LinkedIn.
sure.
I follow you on LinkedIn. I appreciate that, article or what have
Yeah,
you that we may have posted." So that to me is great validation that what we're doing
sure.
is worthwhile.
Yeah, that is cool. Has there been an actual acquisition where another attorney has referred you, or someone came out of the woodwork as a business owner, and that's turned into a client? Can you talk to us about that?
Well, there've definitely been attorneys who I'm connected with on LinkedIn who I might know,
Yeah.
who has connected me with a potential client, let's say, on LinkedIn. But coming out of the woodwork is, yeah. So I would say 6 months or so ago, I got a message through LinkedIn from a lawyer who is kind of in the Baltimore, Washington metro area
Hmm.
and does a type of work that I don't do anymore. And he actually reached out to me because he still thought I did that kind of work. And but in in that kind of process and in the dialogue that
Yeah,
happened
you
after we
clarify.
connected,
Right.
what we realized is that there were some real synergies because I'm no longer doing the type of work that he does, and the work and basically what that is alcoholic beverage licensing work.
Mm, okay.
That's his primary focus. And so I've referred clients to him, and he has referred, I think to date, at least two
Oh,
clients
great.
to me, one who is currently a client
Sure.
because we realized there was a synergy there. He
Right.
did something that I didn't do. I did something that he didn't do.
Yeah.
I looked him up. I liked his website, liked his profile on LinkedIn, and yeah, and we've connected several times, since then.
Oh, that's great. I mean, that is a
Yeah,
tremendous success story, right? I mean,
it
that
is.
wouldn't
Yeah,
have happened most likely if it
right.
weren't through LinkedIn, right? So that kind
Exactly.
of connection, and then that led to not only business for him, which was great, but it also led to clients for you as well.
Right.
So,
I think he might have read an article or an actual article, yeah, that I
sure,
posted
sure.
several years ago on an alcoholic beverage licensing kind of issue, and
Right.
that's what initially brought me to his attention. I don't know
Right, right,
how.
right. Because it was kind of in his purview, so it piqued his attention, so he wanted to reach
Correct.
out. Yeah,
Right. Right.
that's cool. What's his name, by the way, if you want
His
to?
name is Sean Morris. He's
All right.
he's practices in Montgomery County,
Yeah,
which again is a kind of a nearby county in the Baltimore,
yeah.
Washington metropolitan area. And interestingly, even though we're kind of both in that Baltimore, Washington area, the Maryland is a very county centric type of state.
Mm.
And there's not a lot of crossover necessarily between, let's say, lawyers who practice in Howard County
Oh,
and
really?
Montgomery County. It's really kind of odd that way.
Huh.
But it's wonderful to then have, a somewhat close connection
Sure.
because you kind of bridge that gap or what,
Right. Yeah.
that boundary.
Yeah.
And so the con- having him as a connections kind of opens up, a little more area geographically, and then the
Right.
same for him.
Oh, that's really neat. Yeah.
Yeah.
First, I didn't realize that about Maryland, and second, yeah, that makes total sense of why you would then want to be so wonderfully networked. Any other
Yeah.
examples like that of where these success stories have happened very much primarily because of LinkedIn? Anything else comes to mind?
Well, there are a number of lawyers who I'm connected with on LinkedIn who um, have either reached out, messaged, most of the time just messaged during LinkedIn at
Yeah.
and ask if I do a certain type of work or handle a certain
Mm.
type of client. Um, and there are clients who have found me on LinkedIn. And so one thing that we do is, and we're trying to do
Mm.
over the last couple of years, we've been trying to do a much better job of really kind of focusing, narrowing down how somebody found us. And, anytime a potential client calls our office, one of the first questions is, how did you find us? And a lot of people just say Google, but for sure, there have been potential clients who then have become clients who found us on LinkedIn.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Do you remember them citing anything specific, any specific post that you did? Do you remember that by chance?
I don't remember that, but
sometimes it's not that, one-to-one. It's, that
right.
effect, right?
One thing I did do on LinkedIn a couple of years ago is on my website and on LinkedIn and some of the other social media sites, I've kind of used the phrase "the lawyer for business owners," and I really think that phrase creates an immediate indication as to what I do and who I represent.
Right.
5 words. And so there are a lot of business people on LinkedIn. And so, if a business person or an owner of a business is looking for a lawyer on LinkedIn, or just scrolling through LinkedIn and sees the lawyer for business owners, it really just kind of hopefully grabs their attention.
Sure.
As opposed to just saying lawyer who does contracts and, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Especially when it can be so vast and varied, depending on what the
correct
the business owner needs and their
and lawyers can do lawyers do everything, criminal defense, DUI, family law, and of course I don't do any of that. So I really wanted something to immediately hopefully grab the interest of business owners, but also make it such that people who need any type of legal work outside of that niche don't, waste their time looking at my profile, so to speak.
Yeah, fair enough. Right. Yeah. I mean, and vice versa, right? Or the opposite is true, that when they do actually need something, they know they can turn to you as a resource.
Right.
And they can get they can at least get some type of idea of what you do by your posts, or the articles that you share, the videos that you post, and then of course they can reach out to you. Either they're an attorney and they have someone in mind for you, or they themselves are a business owner and they're turning to you because they need your help. So that's fantastic. We're going to take a quick commercial break.
Okay.
When we come back, I'd love for you to share kind of 2 things. One, something that you really love about LinkedIn, and something that not so much, something that you don't really like about LinkedIn. It gives you an opportunity to vent about some of the more annoying aspects of LinkedIn. And then, of course, it'll be great for people to learn how they can get a hold of you. But let's take a commercial break and we'll come back in a minute.
All right.
Do you want your own podcast like this one? My team will do all the grunt work for you. Just show up, smile, and enjoy talking to your potential clients and referral relationships. Go to videosocials.net/govip to watch our 9-minute webinar for all the details. Are you a busy lawyer, coach, consultant like me? You should have a podcast done for you to get you more clients, impress your colleagues, and it becomes your perpetual referrals flywheel. We find you the right guests. We schedule your guests, handle all the podcast tech, get you into Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and more. Done for you. Go to videosocials.net/govip to watch our 9-minute webinar for all the details. Now back to the show. And we are back with Katherine Taylor. So Katherine, as we wrap up, tell us something that you really love about LinkedIn.
I love being able to use LinkedIn as a tool to vet people. Like I said, whether it's an attorney that I'm working with or against, or a potential client, a person that a potential client is contracting with. It's an excellent way to really learn about the person. And another thing that I learned is if they're not on LinkedIn, I kind of think, why not? I mean, you know,
So does that put like a red flag of why are they so private?
or
Especially as a business owner.
right, or if they have a profile on LinkedIn, but they haven't updated it, there's no
Right,
picture.
right.
But yeah, I mean, I would say daily, I'm looking at LinkedIn to look at other people's experience, their connections,
Sure.
and figure out whether basically just find out information about
Yeah, the
people that I'm
viability
going to
of
be
that
working with
connection.
in some respects,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And sometimes, as you mentioned, it could be on behalf of your client, right? If they're going to
Correct.
business with someone else, it gives you a little bit of insight.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Has anything alarming turned up where you had to talk to your client where you found something that may not feel right or fit right when they were about to do business with someone? Not that you want to share any details, but
Yeah.
did anything like that happen ever?
So I haven't found anything on
Okay,
LinkedIn that has
okay.
caused, that has been cause for concern. We
Yeah,
find things
yeah.
up in other
All right.
databases, I guess.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay,
Right.
cool. And very, very nice segue. Is there something that annoys you, bothers you, frustrates you that you don't like about LinkedIn?
I think the thing that bothers me most is the fact that and I'm sure a lot of people tend to get, I'm going to call them very cold, cold email messages, people
Sure.
just out of the blue
Yeah.
saying they'd like to set up a meeting because, because frankly, because they have something to sell.
Right.
Um, and, I don't like that, but I realize it's common, and generally what I do is just either quickly respond and say I'm not interested, or sometimes I don't even respond at all.
Sure.
I wish people didn't use LinkedIn that way,
Mm,
but on the other hand, I think that some people probably do have success. So
sure. Right. Right. Right.
um, yeah, that's why I don't feel too bad if I don't respond, because I'm
Right. Well, if they
realizing.
haven't taken the time for that, there's no prior relationship, business professional
Correct.
relationship where it is literally out of the blue, then
Exactly. Yeah.
that it basically amounts to spam.
Right. Right.
Where it could have been email, but just as easily, but it happens to be with LinkedIn. And so I
Right.
guess the lesson is develop the relationship first, or have a prior relationship, and then
Exactly.
maybe that'll be a little bit more effective
Right.
to because
Right.
ultimately, yeah, we're all representing and selling something in some regard, but there's
Absolutely. That's
an
why we're on
appropriate
there in the
way, and
first
then
place.
there's the awkward, inappropriate way. So yeah, that
Correct.
can be annoying, but yeah, it's kind of there are sponsored messages, right? That's how LinkedIn is
Mhm.
making money. So that
Right.
they obviously are a valuable asset for Microsoft at this point. So they will continue to find ways of making money.
Right.
But you yourself, likewise, have been able to use LinkedIn to make money
Absolutely.
as well, right? So because
Yes.
of your presence, because of your profile, the experience that you've put in over these 15 years with LinkedIn, and what you post multiple times a week, so practically every other day, if not daily, all that has led to success stories where other attorneys and clients have come from the woodwork, as I say,
Right.
to do business with you. So that's fantastic, Katherine. Thank you for sharing
That
your
is.
insights, because I think that can be a learning lesson for others who are toying with the idea or literally toying with LinkedIn and not taking it seriously, that there is actual business to be done through the platform. That's great.
Yes.
This is fantastic. Any final thoughts? And finally, how can people get a hold of you and reach you either through LinkedIn or your website, etc.?
So my only final thoughts or comments would be that whatever media, I guess LinkedIn is kind of considered business social
Sure,
media
it's
you're
just business
using.
social media. Yeah,
Decide which outlets you're going to use. Don't try to use everything.
yeah,
Decide
right.
which outlets you're going to use and concentrate on those, and update the profiles, and make sure you're on it somewhat regularly, or have
Sure,
somebody on it for you.
right,
Yeah, that would be my suggestion, especially for somebody just starting out. You can't do everything, but
right.
pick a few things and do really well at those few.
Yeah, and I would say that that's a great lesson, not only learned but imparted for those not only just starting out, but even people who
Right.
are active, right? Because there's always going to be
Exactly.
another platform. There's always,
Yes.
grass is greener, or potential
Right.
new fad, or wonderful thing, and potentially those other platforms can gain traction and be powerful. But as you mentioned, LinkedIn continues to this day to be the only platform really that's exclusively for professional,
Right.
work-oriented networking, where
Right.
obviously that kind of thing can happen on Twitter, and to some degree it happens on Facebook and Snapchat and Instagram, even TikTok. I'm sure there are lawyers on TikTok doing really well, dancing or not.
Right.
But it's obviously a different type of platform than, let's say, LinkedIn, which is, to its credit, has remained that productive platform, which because it's work oriented, can actually be seen as boring or kind of behind the times, right? It's not as sticky and catchy and social or controversial as, let's say, Facebook, etc. But they don't want to be. So from that aspect, I hand it to them of kind of sticking to that original premise. And likewise, I hand it to you for sticking with the original concept of, all right, you're going to be active and use it as your professional networking tool. So thank you again. How can people get hold of you?
Well, on LinkedIn, Katherine Taylor, the lawyer for business owners, and my website has all our contact information, taylorlegal.com.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Katherine. This has been another episode of LinkedIn for Lawyers, true stories of client acquisition told by attorneys. You can watch prior episodes on our YouTube channel. Go to videosocials.net/watchlfl for LinkedIn for Lawyers. You can listen to episodes, so you can watch it, LinkedIn Live, Facebook Live, YouTube, of course, as I mentioned, and listen to it through Stitcher and Spotify, Google Podcasts, and of course, Apple Podcasts. Thank you for subscribing, downloads, reviews, and all that good stuff. Again, my name is Vikram Rajan, your host and co-founder of Video Socials. Until next time, talk to you then.